How long should you plan for sprint planning? So the Scrum Guide would say for a month-long sprint, up to 8 hours. Okay, an 8-hour time box. And what we've got to remember is in a time box, it's got an end. Okay, you can't go over it. You can stop before it. So if you've achieved your planning in a short period of time, then great, go and do something more useful. But if you hit the end of that time box, stop. So all Scrum says is in a month-long sprint, 8 hours. And they tend to reduce as sprints get shorter. So the rule of thumb we have is 2 hours per week of sprint. Okay? Most common being a 2-week sprint. So when we work with teams in the early days and they say we're going to do a 2-week sprint, okay, you're going to need about 4 hours of planning. And they don't believe you. Okay, they think that's way too long. Okay, well, what's going to happen in it? You're going to come together as a Scrum team. You're going to be saying, what matters? Okay, let's look at this backlog. We've been in refinement. We're doing a great job. Yep. And you're going to run down that list in pretty short order. Okay, and you're going to determine, because you know what your capacity is within that team, either because you've got data or because as a team it's a gut feel and you're in the early days without data and that's good enough. And you're going to go, yeah, this kind of fits. Yeah, that feels about right. Okay, why? Why does this matter? What are we going to tell people we're actually trying to achieve? Because delivering stuff is not very motivating. Okay? So you might have spent 30, 45 minutes, maybe an hour working out what is the stuff, having conversations about it, any last questions on it. To be clear, that's not very long. You're only talking a handful of minutes per item that's coming through. And so many teams will take somewhere between half a dozen and a dozen items into a sprint. That there's no rules here. So you're probably spending 5 minutes or so on each item, just going, okay, are we all clear? Yeah, is there anything that's changed? Has anybody got any questions? No? Great, move on. Okay? You go through that. Okay, so let's say we're 45 minutes into planning now. We've got our 10 things that we think make sense. We're now going to have a discussion about why this stuff, why does this matter as a team? So as a Scrum Master, you're going to be there facilitating the discussion more than taking part in it. But we want the developers and the product owner to come up with a reason that they care about. Okay, why this? How does this help us achieve the product goal? Okay. So we're working on this to get this feature out because we believe that that feature will increase, the retention of customers by whatever percentage. Okay, that's interesting. So the aim is not to deliver the feature. The aim is to improve customer retention. Yes, okay, that's our goal. That takes time because you're going to kick around a whole load of things. You've got 6 people in a team, say. They're passionate. Okay? They need to be, because to do a good job, they need to be engaged, they need to be motivated, they need to want to be there. Passionate. They're going to come up with a load of ideas, and collectively they're going to bounce them around, and in all likelihood, none of them get selected. It's some combination of several ideas that finally crystallizes into, yeah, that matters. Okay, that might have taken another half an hour, so we're just over an hour into this planning meeting, a 4-hour meeting that we've got scheduled. What's the rest of the time? Let's give you some time for breaks, because a 4-hour meeting's just no fun. Okay, so you're probably going to spend 3.5 hours, say, in the actual meeting, plus some breaks, because Lord help us, nobody needs a 4-hour meeting in their life. We've got a few hours left. What are we going to use that time for? Well, for each of those 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 things, we're going to sit down as a team, developers in particular. So Scrum Master, I'm going to be available if they need facilitation, if they need some pointers, if they need me to go and sort anything while they're having that discussion. Maybe I need to rustle up, somebody who understands a particular part that they need to talk to. Great, I'm there. Product owner's there. Are there any questions coming up as they break the work down? They're going to be looking at each item and saying, how do we deliver this? Not how could we, how are we going to? And collectively, they're going to start tasking things out. My background's in software, and we used a lot of UML to explain the flow of data through systems. This. And in doing that, we could actually go, well, this service is going to talk to, that service doesn't actually exist. Okay, there's a task just to create the service. And then there's a task to talk to it. And then there's all of this discussion is happening for each of those items. Okay? We took 10 things in. Okay? We've got about 15 minutes to talk about each one. It's not very long. Okay? But we want to do it collectively. Some teams will break up and they'll do it in all different ways, and that works for them, and that's great. At the end of it, what we want is a team that is able to move forward. It has a plan of attack. So that's where all your time goes. You're going to spend some of it working out what matters about this sprint. What do we need to deliver? But the bulk of it is actually, once you've done that, sitting down and saying, okay, how are we actually going to do this? Because in that, we're going to learn more, and we're going to set ourselves up for a better sprint, because everybody understands what we're trying to achieve and how we intend to achieve it. If I roll off my piece of work earlier than expected, I can take up just about anything within my skill set, which means that I can get started on the next most important thing in all likelihood. And that way, we can keep the pace going. Right? I'm not sat around waiting for somebody else to explain what they thought we should do. We had a meeting. It was at the start of the sprint. It's all really clear. We've had an opportunity to talk about it. Okay? Now, I, as the new member of the team, may not be the best qualified person, but that's okay. I can make a start. And as somebody else becomes free, we might pair up and keep that momentum going. And as other people become free, we carry on and on and on. So many people say sprint planning is too long and they want to cut it down. Okay. I understand that. 4 hours is a long meeting. Okay. Nobody wants to be in a meeting for 4 hours. However, we're looking at, say, 2 weeks worth of work for roughly a 4-hour meeting. Okay? That's a lot of work to get through. What we're trying to do is just take some time to understand what matters, why it's important to the product, to the stakeholders, to us as a team, okay? And how do we intend to deliver it. No one thing takes a long time. There's just a lot to get through. And therefore, you're likely to use all the time. As you learn, you might get a bit faster. But the great teams that I've had a pleasure of working with use most of their time in planning. If you've got to this point in the video, I hope you've enjoyed it. If so, a like would be appreciated. If you want to hear more from me, more answers to questions that maybe you've got in the Agile world, please subscribe to the channel. And if you've got a question that you really want answered, drop it in the comments. I promise we'll get around to it. Thank you.